there. I'm Don.
And hi, I'm Cindy, and welcome to Pearls of Liberty, March 10th, 2012. This week is interesting. You don't read a whole lot you don't see a whole lot in the mainstream media, but there is a lot going on behind the scenes. And one of the most significant things is the possibility that we could be in the last days of President Barack Obama.
Yes. Nothing happening here. Move right along, move right along. No television coverage on this, no mainstream media coverage on this, but articles of impeachment have been begun against President Obama. And we knew about that a few days ago, and there has been a media blackout on that. Alex Jones mentioned it in a video this morning, showing us links on the thomas.gov site where the bills are cataloged, and it has been entered. And there's only one condition, and that's that if the United States is under attack, and the United States is not under attack. So these articles of impeachment do have bipartisan support and will apparently go forward. And we believe that there are international parties that are bringing pressure to bear on this. Just putting two and two together from different sources, we do believe that it's time, that the time for the criminal cabal has run out, and our strong hunch is that Obama has to go, according to these international groups that are seeking to bring an end to the global banking cabal that has tied up humanity for the last 100+ years. So this is great news. Sorry if you think that Obama's a good guy, that he's fighting for the little guy. Sorry about that. That's a delusion. He's not. He's every bit as much of a neocon and a traitor to America as Bush ever was. There is just no getting around that fact. If you look at the facts, you can't seriously blame everything on Bush anymore, and this has just gotten to the point where we're seeing a phony setup for the opposition. The power structure wants to carry Obama forward. They're picking somebody who couldn't even compete with John McCain, who was a failed candidate last time. So this is looking like a setup unless we get intervention happening, and we think we are. We think that intervention is beginning to happen. It depends on to some degree on popular support happening in America. There are good people working behind the scenes, but unfortunately the vast majority of the American people are brainwashed that they just believe what comes out of the mainstream news, and we're doing this and counting on you to spread the truth so that situation changes. It's very important that people begin to see reality for what it is in our world today, and especially in the United States.
It does sound a little bit contradictory, on one hand, to say that Obama is committing treasonous acts, which he is, by relying on the United Nations to direct us in war, and then also to say that there are international parties who are moving behind the scenes to encourage this impeachment of Obama. And just to explain that a little bit, there are people, and you've probably heard us mention before, the white dragons, the white knights, the white hats. There is a consortium of people who want the American people to have the liberty that was won for us, who want the Republic of the United States to survive instead of being just twisted and turned into this perversion of democracy that we're seeing, that is rapidly becoming a Caesarean kind of a tyranny. So these people who are, they are international as far as their origins, but they're not trying to take over this country. They're trying to liberate this country and restore it, not the way the United States does when we invade another country, but they're trying to take off constraints that have been placed on us by the banking cabal that have made it nearly impossible for us to be a truly free people. And examples are election fraud and just such tight financial control, strangle taxes.
Media
Yeah.
Media blackouts.
Comment on all this?
Yeah, this is, I see the how people could get confused. That, wait a minute, what are these outsiders trying to do for America? Can't we just decide our own problems? And that's what we should do, but the problem is that most people are asleep and been brainwashed by the media. Ever since the days of Project Mockingbird and Walter Cronkite, it's been a plan to put the American people into the mode of just believing what's put on the tube in front of them, and everybody. Then you create an illusion that there's been a breakthrough in talk radio with Rush Limbaugh, etc. But this is a controlled paradigm. If you think that you've broken out because you're a conservative and listen to Rush Limbaugh, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're not. That's a controlled paradigm. They don't let you see the man behind the curtain. The man behind the curtain is the world global banking cartel, backed up by the U.S. military. It's been that way for a long time. Now it's just come to a crisis point. It's been that way ever since the days of Smedley Butler, ever since that era, about that time when the European financial bankers bought up interests in the media companies, and gradually over that period of almost 100 years now consolidated all of the media. And the reservoir of truth now is the internet. And I've heard fresh rumors this week that there's going to be an internet terror attack. And I'm sure the powers that be would like to clamp down on it. I don't think they're going to be able to at the point. I think that it's way too far down the road, and that people are going to cry foul. There's way too many people waking up to what's really going on. And it's not about left versus right. It's about tyranny versus liberty. And Ron Paul is a great voice for liberty. He has really taken a huge hit with all of the media coverage not even being there, but still there is a groundswell of support for him in all of the caucus states, and he is gathering delegates that are very dedicated to him, unlike the delegates that are dedicated to Romney. If you want to know why Romney's numbers appear so high, what they're actually doing is they're counting all of the unpledged delegates in Romney's column. That's the only way that his delegate count gets that high. Ron Paul's delegate count is very realistic, not as high as Romney's, but it is high enough to ensure that there's going to be a brokered convention. Well, that's down the road. We'll be covering that later. But right now, we've got people that are in other countries that want the United States to be the beacon of freedom that we think we are, but no longer are. Because like Thomas Paine said, the cause of America really is in great measure the cause of all of mankind. That day has come again where we have to reclaim that ground, and there are people in other countries that want us to do that because they want freedom too, and they realize, like Ronald Reagan said, that if freedom dies in America, it'll probably never rise anywhere else. I'm totally paraphrasing, but that was the concept that he said. Ronald Reagan said a lot of great ideas and did a lot of underhanded things. So we need to really get on fire about this Obama thing because it has come to a crisis point. Leon Panetta went before Congress this past week, and this was the critical point. And as Secretary of Defense, he says, we don't know if we're going to even consult you when we go to do a military action, a joint force between other nations, a military action. We don't call that a war, so we don't have to get permission of Congress. This is a blatant, totally blatant disregard for the Constitution. It's unconstitutional. Obama didn't declare war, didn't even come to Congress for funding for Libya, and Congress has been declared ceremonial at this point, just like in Rome when Caesar made their, whatever their group was called, the Senate, when that was declared to be ceremonial in that day. This empire has come to that point again, and power has become concentrated in the executive, and that always spells tyranny, and the American people, we need to rise up and say no, and many are.
So essentially, Obama has committed treason because he has allied himself with foreign powers and is sidestepping Congress. And while there might be encouragement from international parties, Congress is making this decision on their own. They were personally, many of them, personally offended that they would be sidestepped and classed as being ceremonial. And it's incredibly unconstitutional. This isn't even the only issue with Obama. This is what triggered the articles of impeachment. But the birther information is becoming much more widespread. Many more people are expressing very serious concerns about it. Sheriff Arpaio in Arizona is pursuing this hotly, and there's even a CBS News video interviewing Sheriff Arpaio that's actually very open and honest and fair, if I might use that word, to express the deep concerns about the validity of Obama's birth certificate.
I'd like to say a word about, to people that think that this is a trivial issue and want to dismiss it. It doesn't matter where he is born. Let's just judge the man on the basis of his character, his policies, etc. I got to say something about that. The founders required natural-born American citizens to be president for a good reason. They knew that the power concentrated in the executive, and particularly in the office of the president, is a key point of vulnerability. And they recognized that throughout history there have been people that have tried to take over countries by putting in agents, and they being from foreign countries. So this is not some outdated idea. It's a very real concern, because they knew that because of the way humans are wired, they're not going to tend to betray their own people that they grew up around, people that they have roots with. But this is not the case for Obama. And one of the other things that he doesn't have those roots. And that's what the controversy of the birth certificate is all about. It becomes much easier to see that Obama is in fact betraying the country when you recognize that he is a foreign agent. And one of the things that I wanted to point out about the Sheriff Arpaio concentrating on the birther issue is that really dovetails with what Andrew Breitbart was going to bring out, and that some of those clips did come out, but we know it's not the full thing this week, that has to do with his exposing Obama. But there was there was a collaboration between the two that would have been like a 1-2 punch. And now it's less, but I don't think that it's going to go away, and it is going to gain momentum, because there really is no stopping this by taking out one person anymore. And I do believe that Breitbart was taken out. Heart attacks can be caused in people that are beyond a certain age, because we have a certain amount of stuff that's in our blood vessel walls that can be knocked loose with the certain frequency that penetrates the system. This is a well-known weapon that has been used in various times in history. In fact, it is, if you happen to know about the movie Eyes Wide Shut, and the producer, director, what's his name?
Kubrick.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick, that he had full editorial control and over the cuts in the movie, Eyes Wide Shut. He would not cut the final segment, and we did not ourselves know what that final segment was until we heard it from Alex Jones, and I believe he got the true inside scoop of what that final 20-minute cut was, that it was cut and Kubrick died the day after. He would not agree to the cut. He died of a heart attack. Coincidence? I don't think so. That final cut was of human sacrifice. And when you understand how the elite work, that really is what it boils down to. These are satanic Kabbalists. And their time on the earth is done. Done, done, done. They are going away, and we can celebrate, but not quite yet. We need to be serious in our opposition. We need to recognize, claim by faith, that they are going down, that truth will reign, that freedom, justice, and love will come. There's great hope for humanity, but we have to turn this corner first, and we're right at it.
And one more issue with Obama is Fast and Furious. I mean, and the behavior of people in his administration regarding Fast and Furious, these weapons ended up in Mexico, hundreds of people died. Another, I believe, event that's worthy of impeachment. So there's not just one issue here. Even if there were only one issue, it would be enough. But these things are stacking up, and it's too much. We truly, from the bottom of our hearts, hope that justice comes in these circumstances, and that the evil people do back off, so that we have some breathing room, so that we can restore our republic. We're willing to do the work ourselves, but we need to have some of these powerful people removed from their positions of power in order to be able to even strive to restore the republic.
I just want to quickly point out that the idea of Fast and Furious being an article of impeachment is probably unlikely, because the Republican Party is contaminated by that as well, even though they didn't use the gun selling as a false flag against the Second Amendment, as Obama and Holder were trying to do. That's probably not going to weigh in real heavily in the impeachment proceedings. But one of the things I do want to point out is that very, very clearly, Obama was the first president that ever sat on the UN Security Council, which is the highest office in the UN, on a one-month rotational basis. He did that, and everybody was aghast, because this was crossing the line that had never been crossed before, actually presiding over a foreign body, and that's grounds for impeachment right there. The stuff about the no congressional authorization for wars, you get your approval from the UN, that's just cementing and saying, no, what you did was not ceremonial. You're telling us that you get your approval from the UN. It's clear that you are a foreign agent. It's wide out in the open now.
Another issue that we want to address is something that we have not really been very aware of until just recently, and that is the whole Kony 2012. And it seems very clear to me, and I think to Don as well, that with everything that's going on with Obama, with so many critical issues hanging in the balance in our country, the election process going on and so forth, that this whole Kony 2012 is just a Wag the Dog effort. And if you've never seen the film, please see it so you understand how these things play out. There's this Kony 2012 is being trotted out as something that everybody needs to get upset about right now, and it's really not even that significant, and certainly not unusual, and certainly not outside the realm of the evil that's done every day in our own country.
Yeah, I'm not fully informed in it, but I did see a great clip, and I know Cindy will put the link there, of Stefan Molyneux talking about how a fraud this whole thing is. You can now be an activist by telling a foreign country that your military is going to come in and take them over. Aren't you a great activist? I mean, it's just like 180 degrees from the idea that activists want to stop the abuse of government power. This is, if you're an activist, you increase the power of the military and industrial complex. I don't think so. So, very wrong-headed. The brain-dead sheeple are falling for it. Please don't.
And unless I'm mistaken, I think that the point is to ask for military involvement.
Yeah, that's why I said what I said.
So here we have, once again, we've been brainwashed as Americans to believe that any of the world's ills can be cured by us sending our military, when the reality is that the U.S. war machine is probably the very greatest ill in the world today, and the use of the abuse of the military and misuse of the military is one of the reasons why internationally other people are very concerned about the welfare and health of the Republic of the United States. Because if we just randomly send our armies somewhere, and we've become accustomed to this, and it's unconstitutional. According to the Constitution, we only have a standing army to defend our borders. And this idea, this notion of sending people all over to get involved and mix everything up is completely unconstitutional, completely unfounded in the principles of liberty.
We're an empire now.
Well, yeah, and you know, it's interesting in the film Gladiator when the emperor is about to die and he's questioning, you know, I don't know why I did all this. Why have I insisted on conquering? And at the end of a life, it's pointless. Of course, in the United States, it's all the banking cabal, and their main point is to accrue wealth and power.
Yeah.
So, another thing that just as we talk about the international people who are concerned about what's going on in the United States, we did want to just mention, and we may have discussed it before, but as a reminder, according to Benjamin Fulford, there is a March 31st deadline for the criminal banking cabal members to turn themselves in. So
yes, beware the Ides of March, you tyrants.
Absolutely. And there have been, now the list is up to 177 resignations and arrests of heads of banks around the world. So some people listen to Fulford and they say, well, there's no proof that any of this is true. But these resignations are very real, and they are can be read about in the mainstream media. And even as we mentioned before, CBS this week, Channel 5 in Arizona, was talking about the birth certificate issues. And Benjamin Fulford had said that CBS was breaking from cabal control, and they were going to begin to give the true news, more significant news about what really is happening behind the scenes.
Right. Yeah. This stuff really is happening. You won't. I don't think you'll find much about the bank resignations as an entire article that covers all of them, but you'll find them bits and pieces in various places. One of the sites that I want to mention that did have an article to pull them all together that's on the internet is AmericanKabuki.blogspot.com, and that's one that Fulford refers to sometimes, and it does have articles that do pull it all together. And that is really happening. And for those of you that have been around for a while, I'm not sure how many listen to this, but I remember, this is very, very reminiscent to me of a time in the 90s, in the late 90s, when there were back doors into bank accounts and they were being emptied and people were resigning from Congress. There was a man named Charles Hayes that claimed to be former CIA, claimed to be CIA, and the CIA was denying him, but he had knowledge of all this stuff, and people that were compromised with international contacts and were working for foreign agencies and weren't really loyal to the United States, L'Oreal, missile secrets, etc., were getting out. Their bank accounts were being drained, their Swiss bank accounts, and it was through these backdoors in the software. And this guy, Charles Hayes, was talking about this and telling how they were taking these people out and forcing resignations. Well, something very similar is happening, but what they're actually doing is they're plugging the backdoors into the bank accounts, and they are forcing the resignations of the people, and that's in preparation for a resetting of the global financial system, which we believe is going to be coming soon. And it will be based on backing of currencies with real assets. So the dollar will not be this free float anymore as the world reserve currency. Many people are already saying it's no longer the reserve currency. I believe that will be official very soon, and we're going to see some changes. But all this work is preparation for that, because we need the bad guys out before the new currencies can come in. So this is happening right now as we speak. All this stuff comes together, and the Obama administration is one of those things that has to be removed, or that we think, this is totally our opinion, that this is connected to the global financial restructuring that we see happening behind the scenes, not from any inside information, but from an information that's available on the internet.
And one of the most encouraging things that Benjamin Fulford said, and this was in a YouTube video interview, is a radio interview, and we'll also put this one up. He said, if you own stock in Monsanto, now I'm quoting Benjamin Fulford, this is not us, this is Benjamin Fulford. If you, and I'll put quotes around this, quote, if you own stock in Monsanto, sell it, end quote. Because according to Benjamin Fulford, a year from now, Monsanto is not going to exist as a company.
Maybe you can short it, make a bundle.
That's not financial advice.
It's not.
It's just an observation.
Hypothetical.
So, do you have anything else you want to say about Fulford and all this?
No, we kind of went through all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well then, I think we have arrived at our Pearl Culture segment. And we just saw a film last night called A Good Day for It. And it's at the outset, it feels like it's going to be very dark and depressing. And we don't want to give it away, but press through that if you don't like to watch films where horrible things happen. Just hold on to your seat and try to get through the beginning.
It's a very recent film. I think it's 2011. But it feels like an old-time Western, just the way the scenes move and play out and the way the characters take their stands. And it's about honor. It really is. It's about honor and justice, and a little less than it is about the law. Just a tiny giveaway. Near the end, you have a law officer who's trying to do the right thing, but by trying to enforce the law, he is overstepping where justice is. So it's interesting, because it really is about people that want to see the right thing happen, and people are in danger. So I won't say that everything ends out okay, but you see some characters who have really good values and live and stand strong by them, and that's encouraging.
Yeah, it's very encouraging, and it was entertaining and enjoyable. And we watched an old film this week called The Paper Chase, and it's about law students and the struggles that they go through, but it's from, I think it's from the 70s, so it's all much more innocent than I'm sure what law school is like today.
This movie is an interesting one for me because I remember being strongly drawn to this movie at the time that I originally watched it, shortly after it came out. And I never was really a fan of the TV show, but the movie really grabbed me because I think I'm an academic at heart. And this whole idea of this quest for the legal system that really draws in mankind into civilization, it's what everything makes, it's what makes everything in the world work, it's what truth and justice are, and you have this high ideal being held up, but you also see that there's a struggle in trying to be human in the midst of it. And there's, in watching it again recently, just now, what I was struck by was, of course, now we know how the legal system has been perverted to actually take away justice, etc. And for instance, one of the things that I noticed near the very end was the character that's played by, what's his name? Houseman?
John Houseman, yeah.
Yeah, that the law school professor, he says, now pay particular attention to the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, etc., as they're preparing for their final exam. And if you study the world system, the global system of international commerce and what makes everything tick, it boils down to the UCC. And that's what's being, the system that's used as the enslavement mechanism. So here you have the people that are thinking that they're doing this great thing for humanity and civilization, and they're actually building the chains of humanity's enslavement. So with a little knowledge, the film is even more interesting than it was in the beginning, and I enjoyed it.
We also this week watched a film called The Guilty, and I think there's a French production of this also. It's about a man who's being appointed to a federal judgeship, and he just has some skeletons in his closet, and they get rattled, don't they?
It's a movie that has all these coincidences in it, but because of that, it really makes you believe in divine justice. And there's just certain things that the pieces that fit in this puzzle that you go, that could never happen in real life, but still you're drawn into the movie because you want to see the justice happen, and you don't think it's going to, and you see some things being orchestrated. You don't know how it's going to turn out, but it has a twist at the end, and it is interesting. The character that plays the young man that's searching for his father is very well acted. He has this very interesting mix of street smarts and innocence that is very appealing. I don't remember his name, but it's not any big name actors. One I recognize, but it is well acted.
Yeah, if you're a film buff, you'll recognize a few people. Bill Pullman is in it. He's the star, and yeah, it is well acted. We saw a film this week that was really kind of a downer. Kevin Spacey's in it. You can almost anticipate that if Kevin Spacey's in it, there's gonna be some darkness. It was called Swimming with Sharks, and it's about the film industry, and it's about greed, essentially. I found it interesting, but I don't think that I will ever watch it again. It's just it just shows that dark side of human nature, as Kevin Spacey is so brilliant at portraying.
The guy that's his understudy that's trying to learn from him, in the end is elevated by becoming less human. So it's pretty discouraging from that standpoint. But you also really see how the whole system is psychopathic. In this ultra-competitive industry, you see how people are rewarded for antisocial behavior, and they take it to the level of absurdity. And I think, at least in one review, this is billed as a comedy. It's not really very funny, but it's so extreme that I can see how it could be like a dark comedy. But you get to see the psychopathic mind, the enjoyment of making people squirm, and then how they actually like it when another person joins them in that vindictive type behavior, and they reward that. So it's how psychopaths build their world, their community, and it offers some insights that way.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't call it a comedy by any stretch of the imagination, but it is. If you go on Netflix or any place else, it's billed as a comedy. So caution with that word in this film. Another extreme.
And if that wasn't a downer, this would be even more of a downer.
the grifters. It was. It's an older film, and if I saw it in the past, it was so horrifying that I blocked it out of my memory. I don't know.
It's where nothing good happens and virtually nothing redeeming, except you see these people that are con artists, and you see their lives go shatter. You see bad things happen. You want them to recover. You want them to turn over some kind of new leaf and leave the old life behind. But if anybody shows any inkling of that, they're robbed of the opportunity. So John Cusack and Angelica Houston are, of course, excellent actors, and there's other great people in there as well, and they make a depressing script even more depressing.
That is quite accurate. That's an accurate assessment. It is well acted. If you are a huge film buff, I'm sure you've already seen it, and you know what we're talking about. So that was the films that we saw this week. And do you have any parting words of wisdom?
Just go out there and fight for freedom. Share with people what's really happening. Wake people up.
Thanks for watching.